Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where we read surprisingly interesting stories that usually don't end in a cliffhanger. If you are new to my channel, please feel free to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right in. And the first one is titled, "My parents brought me to the country where I was born, India, but am not a citizen and won't let me go back to the country of my citizenship, which is the USA. I want to run away now, but I'm wondering about things concerning my passport and citizenship." I posted this over in r/NoStupidQuestions and they let me here. I would be grateful if I could get some legal knowledge about my situation/questions. I think for you all to fully understand my questions, you have to know the background first, so I'm gonna start off with that. In June this year, I came to India, the country of my birth, with my family for vacation. My mom and sister came here to move and settle down here and, like I don't effing know, start a new life. Before I got here though, I expressed to my parents that I don't want to spend my life in India and I wanted to continue living in America, where I am a citizen because I've lived there practically my whole life. And because that is my home, not a foreign land, albeit the fact that I was born there. Both my parents said okay to me wanting to stay in America, by the way, before I came here. Like, that was explicitly the final decision. So my dad told me he would book me an open ticket so that I can come back whenever I wanted. When we got here, I told my mom that I wanted to come back in September, but she made it clear that I'm not going back. I've been here since effing June without my consent and I am a legal adult. And now I want to run away and start my own life because that is actually what I wanted. That is all I truly wanted since I don't even remember when. I'm not going to make this a bunch of fluff by giving extensive metaphors about how much I just want to start my life and be me. But seriously, being here is killing me because I'm not allowed that. I guess I have 5 questions and I would be thankful to anyone who can help. First, are there any laws against keeping me in a country where I am not a citizen without my consent and if I am a legal adult? Because I mean, my parents basically lied to me to get me here, but also would the fact that I'm enrolled for college affect the consent argument? In my defense, it was not my choice, I only said okay to get my parents off my back. At this point, the less I deal with them, the better. Second, if I contacted the American embassy here via a letter, email, etc., I'm thinking a letter, where I tell them my situation, would they be able to help me get back to America? Third, I want to book a ticket, but my dad has always handled legal work for the entire family. If I did book a ticket now for whenever I want to go back, would there be any way he could find out that I do, in fact, have a ticket booked in my name? Maybe through my passport or something? Should I be concerned about anything about my passport? Can he nullify it or something else along those lines? Can he do something affecting my citizenship? 4. What are the important me documents that I need to have in order to start my new life? I don't know exactly what is here regarding social security and maybe other things, but I know my birth certificate is lying around somewhere here. And I have school stuff like my high school diploma and transcripts from the time when I was in college. What else do I need? And 5th, I'm actually like really effing anxious about all this. Can someone please genuinely tell me I absolutely can run away, start my goddamn life and breathe a sigh of relief? You don't have to say yes, I would just like to know my honest to goodness chances of getting away and not getting caught. Thanks in advance everyone. To everyone asking me if I am indeed a citizen, yes I am. I got naturalized in 2013 and I have a lifetime visa to India because I was born there and both my parents are of Indian origin. And honestly guys, at least for me, this is a heartbreaking story and I'm curious, what would you suggest OP to do? Do you think the embassy can help him? Let us know in the comments. In addition, a user in the comments suggested this. Go to your US embassy, make an appointment online using the embassy's website or phone. The US Embassy in New Delhi, and probably at other locations also, has a separate entrance and section for US citizens. Go there and explain your situation. Try to take proof of your US citizenship, for example photocopies of your US passport or naturalization certificate. They will help you out. By the way guys, on a side note, have you ever been to India? I actually have been to India for a few weeks back in 2017, and I gotta be honest, it is probably one of my favorite countries in the world. The people were so friendly and kind, and the food was just outrageously good. But anyway, let's continue. And the next one is an update to the citizenship story. I made it back home. I've been here for just over 2 months now. After I made the original post, I was very anxious and not sure how to go about everything because I knew all my options, for example, selling my gold or just contacting the embassy. In the end, I decided to contact the embassy. I called them twice, but both times the number went to voicemail and I never got a call back. That made me feel kinda hopeless until I talked to someone I really trust who suggested to email them, and I did. The embassy helped me out so effing much. They were nice, helpful and understanding. I was getting a little freaked out in the middle of the whole process because I needed at least 3 people to give to the embassy as the people who can help me, and I only had 2. So I got desperate and went on r/assistance, and I don't know what to say about that. I guess people need to take care of themselves first, which I understand. I guess what I can say is that I was not being forced to marry and I had a support system with my parents enough to let me survive. But I don't think merely surviving was the aim of my life. I don't think it ever will be. Nevertheless, I found my last person to help from a friend I've known for an incredibly long time. After I had all the legal stuff figured out, I realized that my mom relocated the passports and stuff because we got our house refurnished. I was a mess and I'm pretty sure the anxiety gave me physical sickness because I was not in good shape. Luckily, literally like 2 days before my flight, I finally found my passport and OCI card. I started packing right away and managed to keep everything hidden from my mom and sister. Goddamn, was it a mess though. My grandmother was sick the week before my flight and we went over to her house every night for a week and spent the night. So I did not know how I was gonna get out of the house in the middle of the night, get my suitcase and catch my flight. But my mom decided to not go there the day before and the day of my flight, so I had a way, I guess. I booked a cab ahead of time and got everything sorted out. And I left. I also had to figure out where I was going to stay and for a while considered women's shelters. My friend looked into it for me and said it was hard for me to get a spot in one of those because I needed to be there for the whole process and I was in India. My other friend let me stay with her for a few days when I got back here. I really think something was looking out for me the whole time because when I got on my connecting flight I realized the guy next to me was going to the exact same city I was going and he really helped me out. I started working almost as soon as I got back home and I got offered a full-time position at my job and now I'm just trying to stand on my feet. But I could not have done it without all the people who helped me along the way. Although I think my relationship with my parents is going downhill very fast and I am almost no contact with them. Good for me, I suppose. Right now I am seriously considering going to therapy and talking about all this with a professional to help me sort out the objective parts of my life. My parents want me to come to India for Ramadan and I am so effing hesitant. I don't know how they have the audacity to come and ask me for their time in the country I fled from for a life of my own. Anyway, in the original post I guess some people were interested in how old I am. I mean, I am 20, but I think toxic culture is toxic to everyone who does not appreciate their environment, no matter how old they are. I don't have my crap together right now, and I did not before, and I don't think I will in the near future. But that is life, maybe. You have to have cracks in the wall, forcing you to repair them to make your foundation stronger. I have no idea, but I know that if I keep talking, it will be beyond the scope of this sub. So, thank you to everyone who helped and gave their advice, suggestions and comments. And guys, I'm curious what you think about this update, but honestly, if I were the OP, I would definitely not go back to India. Also, I'm not quite sure if the OP is a girl or a boy, but since he or she talked about women's shelters, I suppose it's a woman. So yeah, let me know what you think about this in the comments. And the next one is titled, Doctor refuses vasectomy without wife's permission. Is this even legal? So today I had an appointment with the doctor to arrange a vasectomy. I've had 4 kids, enough for me. Well, he asked that my wife should sign a consent form, and this is needed for legal reasons, and there's no way this procedure would go forward without my wife's permission. When I asked for the logic behind this, he said this is common practice everywhere and it is only to protect themselves legally. I am in shock right now. Surely, if a woman wanted to do an abortion and the doctor asked for her husband's signature on a consent form, that would be unacceptable, and rightly so. I cannot see how this is possible. Anyway, I could not go forward at the time, and this is the only place nearby who offers it. I will have to travel further away to see another doctor, and I'm afraid that they will say the same thing. And I cannot just have my wife sign it. We are currently separated and I will be getting a divorce. She's abroad right now. I suspect she would not even sign it just to piss me off. But that is another story. This happened in Florida. And a user in the comments said, you cannot force them to perform the procedure, but you should definitely leave any doctor who does not respect your bodily autonomy. As an aside, I'm a woman who volunteers for/donates to Planned Parenthood, and I'm not insulted by the comparison. Your sexual health is your business, and as long as you are mentally competent, you should not need anyone else's consent. And guys, I don't know what you think about this story, but for me it seems extremely weird that a grown man needs the consent of his wife to do something like this. Do you think this is legal? Let us know in the comments. And by the way, while you're at it, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to help me out. All help is very much appreciated, thank you so much. And the next one is the update to the vasectomy story. So I visited 4 different doctors and none of them agreed to do it without my wife's signed consent form. It was incredibly frustrating, but I eventually gave up. I have now divorced her and the procedure is done. And the next one is titled, New HOA President is threatening me for following state law, I think. So I am a volunteer firefighter in the state of Ohio. I live in an area on the edge of town which is owned, I think that's the right word, by a HOA. Now, as a volunteer firefighter, I am authorized by state law and my chief to run lights and sirens to calls and the station. As far as I'm aware from the class I took, this was several years ago, state law requires me to be using sirens whenever my emergency lights are on. The HOA bylaws prohibit loud noise between 10 PM and 6 AM Monday to Saturday and 9 PM to 8 AM Sunday. It also prohibits overly loud vehicles. Luckily, our previous president was awesome about my role and we came to an agreement that if I was called out, I would activate my lights and sirens as I left the HOA area, which was at the main road, less than a block from my house. He also said he would see about getting an exemption for people like me into the bylaws, but as far as I am aware, that never happened. A month ago, a new HOA president was elected after the old one moved away. Since then he has been enforcing the bylaws with a passion. Up until now, I have not had a problem by following my previous agreement with the former president, but on Sunday at about 6 AM, a cardiac arrest was toned out at the address of one of our former volunteer chiefs, an awesome and highly respected guy, but that is not really relevant. As you can imagine, everyone responded to that, including me. I also had a moment of forgetfulness and put my lights and sirens on from my driveway and hauled ass through our 25 miles per hour zone to get out to the main road. Unfortunately, this goes straight past our new president's house on the edge of the HOA area. When I returned from the call, I was in a bit of a state as unfortunately we were unable to revive our former chief. I was met by the president who handed me notice of fines for violating the quiet hours, having an overly loud vehicle and speeding. As you can imagine, I was not happy, and to be honest, I got a bit aggressive with him and told him where he could shove it. In response to this, he said if he saw my vehicle out, he would clamp it for being in violation of the noise by law, and then after 24 hours it would be towed. He also said he would send the fines to collections. My question is, can he do any of this since I am just following state law? Also, if he interferes with my vehicle while I am on call and I need to go quickly, is he obstructing emergency services? I did ask my chief about this and he said he would get back to me, but I'm worried he may do it as soon as today. Any advice is appreciated. And a user in the comments said, the word is governed. A HOA is effectively a form of petty governance. Most are even elected from the constituency. Now, on the one hand, rules, lawyering busybodies are a normal part of HOA life and you will never be 100% rid of them. On the other hand, the HOA's authority is subordinate to the surrounding government's authority. Splitting the difference, I think you're doing the best you can on your own if you are keeping the lights and sirens off until you leave the HOA's property. However, you are a firefighter, you are not all by yourself. I assume you are supervised by and empowered by your city administration. Your authority to use emergency lights does not spring from nowhere. You should kick this up the chain, telling your supervisor that your HOA is fining you for using your emergency lights will likely lead to a swift and comprehensively loyally knock that crap off letter to your HOA. In short, you did the right things, don't fret the timing, none of this is going to be fast. In the interim, keep saving lives until your supervisor tells you otherwise. If the HOA clamps your vehicle, call the police. And by the way guys, I have the feeling that I have read this story before, maybe around 5 months ago, but I'm pretty sure that we have not read the update. Therefore, I hope you don't mind. Also, the story itself is pretty good. And the next one is the update I promised to the HOA president's story. Hello again, it's me with an update to my situation with the HOA president. I will get it out of the way now. No, he did not clamp my car, and no, he did not get arrested. As much as that would have been a more entertaining update, I think this will still satisfy legal advice for today. So, my chief was pretty mad at this guy already, but when a certified letter appeared at the station addressed to myself and the Volume Fire Department demanding payment of fines and threatening again in writing that he would clamp my vehicle, it was like a red rag to a bull. Oh well, as they say, never interrupt the enemy when he's making a mistake. So my chief called a buddy he knows in the command staff at the sheriff's office and they went over to this guy's place with a couple of officers. I get the feeling that the deputies were probably more likely to need to protect the HOA president from the chief than the other way around, but there you go. It was explained in no uncertain terms to the president what the law was and what he was risking, and he has now backed down. The sheriffs also said if he tries to retaliate, please don't hesitate to give them a call. There is a nasty letter from a lawyer that will be turning up on his doorstep within the next day or so as well, courtesy of the county director of emergency services and the city. The rest of the HOA community has already come out and said this guy is an a-hole and they are looking at getting him voted out. I am very privileged to enjoy a lot of support from my local community for what I do, and I definitely don't take that for granted. I also want to go ahead and clarify some things that came up in my OP. Regarding state law that says you must have sirens on while lights are on, I spoke to the chief about it and we are going to get absolute clarification on that from higher up the chain. I would also like to say I may have gotten confused as our department policy states that we must be using sirens while lights are on. However, my chief does acknowledge that this can be counterproductive in some scenarios, so he will get the advice and then review the policy if necessary. There also seemed to be a little confusion regarding my vehicle. It is my personal vehicle which is fitted with lights and sirens. It does not belong to the fire department and is not overtly marked. However, when I am responding to a call, it is counted as an emergency vehicle. Finally, regarding my driving, user MacDrunk, I'm truly sorry that happened to your sister, and I hope the volunteer who was driving was appropriately disciplined and his rights to drive code were revoked. As you said yourself, I'm required to drive with due regard for other road users and safety, and I take this very seriously. My comment about hauling ass was probably a poor choice of words, given that between my house and the main road, where I have to slow down and stop anyway, stop sign is only about 5 or 6 houses. So, despite all of the downvotes you got, I do take your comments seriously. In addition, please let me know in the comments if you would like to hear more HOA stories, because if I'm honest, I kinda miss these stories. And the last one is titled, Am I liable to pay my son's friend's hospital bill? I brought him to the emergency room in Oregon/Washington, USA. My 14-year-old son snuck out and got drunk with some friends. One of his friends, Josh, also 14, was brought back to our home at 2 AM, unconscious and barely breathing. I, at this point, did not have his parents' contact information to notify them, but immediately drove him to the emergency room. I provided the hospital with my information and made clear the situation. The woman at the front desk was able to pull up my information as I had been a patient there before. She told me that I would not be sent a bill. Just to be clear here, the hospital is in Oregon, but Josh's family lives in Washington. I live in Oregon on the border. Myself, my husband and our son waited at the emergency room for about 6 hours until Josh's mother was contacted and came in. At this point, Josh is definitely okay. She had a very emotional reaction and had to be escorted out of the hospital by staff, basically yelling at me, my family, the hospital staff, etc. Josh's father then arrives, he and I speak for a moment, and he seems upset about the bill. He said that his insurance plan is not very good. This was roughly 2 months ago, and his family has been harassing me to try to get me to pay Josh's hospital bill. The hospital called me and told me that they were told that I would be paying it. They could not tell me how much it was due to HIIPA, so I'm not really sure what to do with that information. Apparently, Josh has told his parents that he was not that drunk and definitely did not need to go to the hospital, and they seem to be buying it. I would think that this would be verifiable by asking the hospital, as he's a minor, but I'm also unsure how HIIPA factors into that. I'm unsure of my liability here. I did make the decision that he needed emergency care, drove him there, and provided the hospital with my information. On the other hand, this is not my child, and you generally have to pay for your own kids' F-ups. I'm having trouble finding good information on this. Most of my Google searches have turned up individual hospital billing policies or things of that nature. Any advice is appreciated. And a user in the comments said, let them sue you if they want to. If you acted reasonably, they will not win. I presume you're not a medical professional, so not expected to know all the ins and outs when somebody has just had too much to drink and will be, or when somebody needs medical attention. And guys, I gotta be honest, one thing that is really scary for someone who's not living in the US is imagining to have to go to the hospital in the US if you don't have the proper insurance. But then again, these stories really make for good content if you ask me. And the last one is the update to the hospital story. Shortly after my original post, my husband and I sat down with a lawyer to discuss the events and our potential liability for the hospital bill, or whether or not any of our actions would be construed as neglectful. Josh's family had seemingly given up on pressuring us to pay the hospital bill. His mother began sending me texts implying that they had trusted us with his care and they could sue for everything we have, hence the lawyer. Basically, they have nothing as far as our lawyer is concerned. We are definitely not liable to pay the hospital bill, and neither the hospital nor any collection agency has contacted us since. Josh's mother attempted to state that we had spoken on the phone and I had agreed to keep an eye on her son, but her first text message to my phone after the incident states, "I just got your number from other child's parent, we need to speak." We are also looking into having our phone records pulled. My son told me that he told Josh that he could sleep over, but neither of them wanted to ask either myself or my husband because that would have ruined their chances of sneaking out to drink. Our lawyer had him write out the series of events. On top of that, there's a text record of Josh texting him apologizing for how his parents are acting and basically admitting that we had never known he was sleeping at our house. So, kind of a boring update, but we are just waiting to see if the family will sue. Our lawyer does not think it would be easy for them to do so without shelling out the money themselves for their own counsel, as it is not a cut and dry case that a lawyer would take on pro bono. Not sure if I'm using the phrase correctly here, but you get my point. Best thing about this entire situation, Josh and my son have decided to remain friends. He's not a bad kid, just a kid who made a stupid decision to drink too much. I hope that we can have him over to our home again, but our lawyer has recommended that we do not invite him over at the moment. And if you're wondering what kind of punishment I have concocted, my son will be 15 soon and eligible to spend the summer working a crappy job to pay us back for some of the legal fees we have incurred. He will still be allowed to spend time with friends and generally enjoy his summer, but I think this is a good way to introduce him to the harsh and expensive realities of consequences for your actions. And guys, since this update was not entirely satisfactory for me, I did some investigative ripe digging and I found out that in fact, after all this time, the other family did not sue the OP, so that is how it ended. Apparently, they ended everything on good terms and the other family paid the hospital bills. Or the insurance did, I'm not sure. The OP was not really clear on that. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripe stories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.